I left social media in January of 2021 for life and business, and I haven't looked back. And honestly, when I did that, I did wrestle with so many fears and questions as I hit the pause button on social. These questions were things like, how will I stay in the loop? How will I connect with other writers or with my readers? How will I sell my books? What if it doesn't work? Well, today we're going to talk about how I chose to face those fears and grappled with each of those questions I just mentioned and how I overcame them. This is a conversation I'm bringing to you from the Writing Off Social podcast with my dear friends, Sandy Cooper and Mary Kay Tiller. You are going to love them both. Both of them have made the same decision to get off social media. And so this was such an energizing and life-giving interview. Before we get into it, though, I need to tell you about a new resource I created for you to help you if you choose to limit social media for your business as well. And it's free. The Craft Your Marketing Strategy Without Social Media mini course will help you to stop being a slave to the algorithm and start doing social media the way you want to. Or, like me, not at all. Inside, you'll learn about 10 organic marketing strategies you may not have even thought about. 4 strategies to get off social and find or build community and connection, and 9 steps to crafting your goal strategy for marketing without social. Are you interested? Go download the 3-video mini course at redhotmindset.com/marketing. Again, that's redhotmindset.com/marketing. I'll leave a link in the show notes as well. Do social media in a way that feels right to you. That is the whole purpose of this resource. With that, let's dive into my conversation with Sandy and Mary Kay. Hey friend, welcome to Pursuing Goals God's Way. Have you thought about finally starting that business now that your kids are older? Do you ever stay awake wondering how to mesh your passions into purposeful work? Do you have big, ambitious goals but feel overwhelmed or even unqualified to pursue them? Hey, I'm Gabe. Not too long ago, I longed for the confidence to start an online business. I just wanted to make a difference outside my home bubble using my gifts. But I kept telling myself that I wasn't good enough. I didn't know enough, and I didn't have enough time. Until I realized something huge. My kids need me to be their example, and they need to see me win. And yours do too. In this podcast, you will learn how to clarify your goals, plan with purpose, and ditch your distractions. If you're ready to make an impact and an income, all for the glory of God, then you're in the right place. As an avid runner, I believe life is one massive marathon. It's up to you to run your own race and to finish it well. So lace up those running shoes, pop in your earbuds, and let's do this thing.
We all know as moms who work, I think that your message is so powerful, and it's one that I personally love. Anyone who has listened to Writing Off Social for very long knows that Sandy and I are big goal and strategy people. We love that. And so it is so fun to have you here, like Sandy said, and just to talk about the things that you're passionate about and how you do all of it without social media. And I would just love to hear about your journey with social media. How do you use it professionally? Do you use it personally? What was that process like if you've decided to leave?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my business journey as an author. Like all I really wanted to do was write books. And so I know this is going to resonate with your audience because that is what we're here for. It's to write. And I just wanted to write, but I didn't know how to get noticed. I didn't know how to get seen. And then I was told by everyone, well, if you're going to write books, you need to start a business and you need something else alongside it. And you need to do all these things. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I just kind of jumped in the deep end and thought, okay, well, I'm going to do what they say. I'm going to create a program that goes along with my book. I'm going to have a big website. I'm going to get on all the socials because I'm supposed to. And I did start out using social media and using it very heavily for promoting my business and for promoting my books. And it did work well in the beginning because I did have already a big audience, a lot of friends, or I would say quote unquote friends, because how many of them do I really know? I just decided like we're not friends until we're Facebook friends is kind of what the motto was way back then. And now this was granted like 2018 is when I really started, and my first book was published in 2019. But I quickly burned out from it, and I did continue to use it. I'm like, I'm posting every day. I don't feel like I'm getting any sales. I don't feel like I'm getting a whole lot of engagement, or at least the engagement that I want. Like, I wanted that community. I wanted to be filled up, but I wanted to help fill others up. And then you go through 2020 where there was just so much negativity there, and I just got sick of it. And I think, Sandy, you had left around that time, but I hadn't quite left yet. I just got sick of it and decided I'm not going to focus too much on it. But then come 2021, January of 2023 is where I kind of heard God kind of say, why are you using it? Like, what is the purpose or the intentionality behind it? And at that point, I didn't really have a huge purpose. I was like, I'm just doing all the things. I'm going through the motions because I was told I needed to go through the motions, or that was the only way to get visibility. So he like kind of challenged me, how about you just take a fast, you hop off and see what I can do, right? And so that's kind of where my journey started. And I hopped off from both business and life, because I felt like I was posting even just life moments. I was posting all about my kids and the accolades and the achievements they had, or it was always like all these great things happening. And I kind of felt a little convicted by that, going, my kids don't really get to choose what I'm posting. And I want them to be able to choose what is out there in the world for them. Now, this was a learning curve. My oldest is 16. So, I mean, that was 14 years of me doing it for them, but better late than never. So that was one of the decisions I made there. But I just wanted to have these real connections. And I felt like the people that I really was close to were going to continue to text me or call me. And I was going to be able to send them my happy pictures so that they can see what's going on in our life. And it started this really beautiful journey for me. And I thought maybe it'll be a few months, maybe it'll be 6 months, maybe it'll be a year. But come January of this year, I just didn't feel like going back on at all. So I do have my profiles. I haven't gotten rid of them. And I do have a free Facebook group. However, I host that with a couple other ladies. It's the reason I didn't stop it. But in this season, we have decided we're no longer going to pursue it anymore. So I feel like I can get completely off social now if I want to, which is really, really cool.
Wow. Okay. I have a couple follow-up questions. Okay. First of all, you said that you always wanted to write books. You started out as an author, but when you started, you were told that you also had to start a business. Tell me more about that. Who told you that? And what kind of, like, just expound upon that a little bit. Like, what were you told exactly? And who said it?
Yeah, it kind of came from the research I was doing, because at that time I was going, do I try and get a publisher? Do I try and publish myself? So that was the first journey. And that took me forever to decide what direction do I want to go? Like, obviously I want to be traditionally published, because in my mind, that's more successful than the self-publishing. Now that was my mind then. Now I think differently, right? And so then when I decided to do the self-publishing, as I'm researching and learning and listening to some others, authors, or kind of writing coaches, those are the ones who started saying, well, you need to build around it, because books, you're not going to make a living on your books. You need more. You need to expand. You need other offerings. You need to do coaching or programs or something if you want to make this a career. And I was like, but I just want to write books. So that's kind of how it went. It was mostly my research and then deciding what direction to go. And that's one of the reasons I self-published, is because then a lot of people were like, then you own it and you can do whatever you want with the book. Whereas if you go traditional, then there's more rules that go with that.
That's right. Okay. And I have found that to be true as well. When I first started writing, I just wanted to write. And then as I was getting coaching, and even a lot in our writing group that we were a part of online, it was a Facebook group, I found a lot of people suggesting that I add things to it so that I could make the money. Now, when we coach our students, because Mary Kay and I, when we run Writing Off Social, the course, we're very candid about when we're helping them develop what we call a core offering. And a core offering can be your book, or it can be something else that you write and offer, like you were talking, like coaching or a course, or, a supplement, something to go with your book, whatever. We are very candid about, if you are trying to earn a 6-figure income, you are not going to do that selling an $11.99 book. Mm-hmm. Like you just aren't going to do that. So I understand that, when you were doing that research, I understand how you came about that. But, did you find that also that you just had to also become, in order to just market your book, you practically have to become an entrepreneur in and of yourself, you know, just in order to like get the word out there, period. Was that your experience as well?
Absolutely. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, I tell you. And honestly, I mean, I do coaching and I have some programs, core programs, and I love it. I'm so glad I went that direction to expand my business a little bit more because my books are more personal development side. I do want to go into the fiction side at some point, but for now, they're almost like a good business card. That's why I was told the book is a business card. I'm like, well, I want it also to be like a product, right? I don't want it just to be a business card. I want them to get value out of it. But I did kind of go that direction because I did decide to publish on Amazon. That was the first place I published. And I'm like, well, it's a search engine. People will find it, but they won't just find it. You have to actually embrace this whole marketing journey and embrace how are you going to sell those books? How are you going to get them out in front of people? Because I didn't plan on being number one on the New York bestsellers list. Like that would have been amazing, but I knew I didn't have the reach for that yet. And so I had to learn, what does a marketing journey look like? What does a book funnel look like? Because essentially that's what we're creating is we're creating some type of a funnel. So I knew nothing about, oh, I need to start an email list. I need to start finding an audience and whatnot. Because the other thing that I learned is if I ever wanted to be traditionally published, I needed to have an audience. I needed to have enough people I like actually following me where they would say, yes, it's worth it. Because honestly, when you traditionally market, or traditionally publish, you still are doing most of the marketing yourself too. So they want to know that you have the bandwidth to do that. And so, yeah, I felt like right away, I dove right into that marketing atmosphere.
I think that's exactly what you were just describing right there is what differentiates our generation of writers from probably every generation of writers that came before us. This need and compulsion to we can't just be writers today. We also have to be marketers. And in most cases, we also have to become and embrace this idea of being an entrepreneur. And I think for a lot of writers, that's a very intimidating thing. It sounds like for you, it tapped into something that was actually a strength of yours. You know, you're able, and you've created a podcast, you have courses, like you've been able to lean into that whole side of this industry and grow into it. But I know that there are probably some writers listening to us that are like, I just don't know that I want to do that and to step into that world. And so I want to speak to that in just a minute, but I also want to say how similar our stories are. And it's so fun to hear you share it because I also watched Sandy get off of social media and was like, that's amazing. That's why we became friends, because she took the leap first and we wanted to connect on it. But I took about 2 more years to get off of it. And your comment that God's question to you was, you know, why are you using this? In January of 2022, I felt him asking me, is this how you want to spend your life? You know, is this how you want to spend your days? Like creating content and pumping out reels and things like that. Is that really what you want to be doing with your life? And so I love how he comes to us and asks us these gentle questions and allows us to take the space to evaluate these things in our lives. He doesn't demand, he doesn't push, he just invites. And so I love that you shared that. I'm curious, when you did take that step, you shared a little bit of what social media looks like for you now, but what were some of the challenges to getting off, not only to grow your business, but to then sell your book? What was the hardest part of getting off of social media for you?
Initially, I would say the hardest part for me was the FOMO. So the fear of missing out. Like I thought I needed to be, I like being up in everyone's business. I like knowing what's going on. And I was so afraid that I was no longer going to be in the loop on anything. And so that was like, even just in life in general, but then in business too, I'm like, well, what if it won't grow without me being on there? What if? And I had all of these questions. And I think that was the biggest challenge for me. And when I made that initial leap, one of the things about FOMO, I felt like I was just living life through the lens of a computer screen. And I wanted to live life through the lens of my own eyes and my own experiences. Like I wanted to go on a hike with my family and maybe take a picture so we could clock that, right? But I didn't want to go, this would be a great Instagram picture. Okay, now you guys got to go sit here and do this. And I'm now thinking about, this is going to be a great poster. This is going to be a great picture. So I loved that I left that. And now I'm like, I'm just living my life for memories. But the challenge to me, especially when it came to being a professional or being an online entrepreneur, was, what if this doesn't work? What if I don't have another way to be able to get seen and have the visibility and to be able to grow the business the way I want to? I think that was the biggest question.
FOMO is a real thing. And I think that anyone who wrestles with even taking a break from social media, when you are a heavy user of social media, as you know, we referred, when you say words like, I was a heavy user, like it just sounds like a drug, like that it's the same. It feels very similar. And the fear of missing out on the everydayness of other people's lives, and even just knowing, like I just had a thought the other day that like, oh, I wonder what Beth Moore is up to. I used to follow her and I have no idea what she is doing right now. Has she written another Bible study? Should I be buying that Bible study? Like, what does she do? Because she's so funny and I love following. And there was this little part of me that was like, oh, maybe I should, just reactivate, just to check on a couple people and see what they're up to. But I know myself and I will get sucked right back in. And the thing about living your life through your own eyes versus the lens of a computer screen, that there's not a lens on a computer screen, but I just put those two things together, is so real. Because, and I experienced something similar. I was more of a Facebook user than I was an Instagram user. And I found myself thinking in short, pithy Facebook captions. Like that is how my thoughts, as I would be processing through experiences in my real life, I couldn't just think about them and process them as a woman or a Christian or a mom or a wife or a friend. I was processing them as a pithy, catchy Facebook caption that someone would share. Every single thing. It drove me nuts. So I can totally relate to that. And I love that you were honest and candid, I guess. I expected you to be honest, but candid about your fear that, like, what if this doesn't work? Because I think that is the fear that resonates with most writers. Like, what if it doesn't work? And I remember wrestling with that same fear and feeling like the Lord came alongside me and said, then you can come back. And I thought, oh, right, because I can change my mind about this. Like, I'm not, just because I'm making a declaration about what I want to try. I entered it as an experiment as well, kind of like you, like, I'm going to take this year off and I'm going to see what happens. Mm-hmm. And I did a very similar thing. And it turns out I found enough things to supplement or take the place of social media that I did not, that fear was completely unfounded. And so my question for you is, and we say this a lot on Writing Off Social, is that one of the keys to leaving social media without regret is to shift your mindset about social media. So what were some of the mindset shifts that you felt like you had to make in order to make this a successful endeavor for you?
Mm-hmm. Now, this took me a while to make these shifts. Like, I feel like it's just a step. Every little shift is going to be one more step in the right direction. And a couple of the mindset shifts that I had to have was the one of, let's live life like in multicolor, right? Let's just live life and not worry about what's going on. And the thing that I also made the shift of is, my husband is very into social still. So he's going to tell me what's going on. So if somebody has a baby or someone moves or, whatever, he's going to say, hey, did you see that? I'm like, where would I see that? But thanks for letting me know. I'm so glad I'm in the loop. You know what I mean? So I had to make the shift going, I'd love for him to be off completely too, but knowing that I will get the information that I need to get, the important information, and I don't need to go on social to find it. Like, social shouldn't be our news network, right? It shouldn't be where we're actually going to get what's going on in the world. And so making that shift of where am I going to look for, knowing what's in what, I like being in my little bubble and not knowing a whole lot. about what's going on because, even just 50 years ago, we wouldn't have known everything that's going on in the world. And I feel like that can be so time consuming and so overwhelming as well. So I'm like, I'm going to shift and get into my community and really be more involved in my community itself. So that, and then also where I'm going to find connections, because I think it's huge, especially as an online entrepreneur. You feel so alone sometimes because you are literally on the computer doing your business and you're in your own little, like I'm in my bedroom at my desk. That's where my desk is. And I do feel alone sometimes, or when I have challenges, or even when I get excited, like my friends do not have an online business and they are not authors. So they do not understand what I'm going through, or, they don't get it at all. And so having that support network is huge. So I had to shift my mindset to say, I can find that without being in a Facebook group. There are so many other places to connect, including in person. So I've shifted my mindset to let's do some in-person things. Like let's do an in-person conference, which I'm going to be doing soon here this summer. And I had to be okay with that. Mm-hmm. And then the main mindset shift I had to have, and you talked about this, Sandy, before, is that it's almost an addiction. And it is a dopamine hit. Like at first, when I was posting, I liked seeing the little hearts. I liked the comments like, oh, look at your pretty hair or whatever, just vain things. So I had to shift my mindset to say, it's okay not to have those accolades. It's okay not to have those vanity measures. And that is a process because you do want people to cheer you on. You want to hear like what you're doing well and all that. But I feel like on Facebook, it's so much more vanity than it is like real, true accolades, So I think those were some of the bigger mindset shifts I've had to make along the way.
Those are fantastic to hear and such good reminders for me personally. And I love what you said about FOMO because it is a reality that you are going to miss things. What I have loved about my experience of getting off is that I have friends now who know that I'm off, and I will get text messages like, oh, hey, I shared this on Instagram, but I know you're not there anymore and I wanted you to know, da, 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 da. And I'm like, thank you so much. I want to hear more about it. And it sparks actual conversation around their news. Or my mother-in-law is wonderful about keeping me abreast with all the news that I miss on social media. She sends me things all the time. So you do have to find those people in your life who can kind of be your eyes and ears out there if just to help, which I do not mind allowing my mother-in-law to do that. She loves to connect with people in a way it's just different for her. So it's great. It works well for me. And your comment also about the news, that was a huge thing for me as I got off social media, is it allowed me to not carry the weight of the world around for days. I am a very empathic person and I take on the emotions of a lot of the things that I read about. And so I would get depressed for days over something that happened to someone in Pennsylvania. And I live in Texas. I don't know these people. Do I have to carry that around, or could I spare my empathy for the people that are right here in front of me in my community? And so I think there's a really important shift to make.
I just want to interject and say that I agree with everything you're saying, Mary Kay. And when I took my first social media break, it was over the 2020 election. And when I came back, there had been such a shift in that. Like I didn't plan on, the election wasn't even on my radar when I went to go take the break. I took the break because of a lot of other things. And it just was coincidental that it was happening. And I was when I heard, because like you, I have ambassadors who come and, act as my informants on what is happening on social media. And it was also over the pandemic, and so like the world went nuts. Everyone went crazy and I missed it all. I mean, I saw craziness in just, my immediate.
You got enough crazy just from the people you interacted with. You didn't need it from the people who were online.
Right. And the change in being able to, I just remember thinking to myself, I just want to think my own thoughts. And if anyone's going to inform my thinking, especially about the pandemic or about the elections, I wanted it to be either my husband who works in healthcare or God. Like those are the only two sources that I was interested in listening to, because my husband was a frontline worker and he was abreast of every single thing that was happening. And God, of course, knows everything. So I only wanted, it was so refreshing to step off of that, because the fear is that like, oh my gosh, how am I going to know? And then when you actually break away, you're like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is awesome that I don't know.
And I don't need to know. And it's okay to not know. And the things that you do need to know, you will find out and it will be okay. And actually, we have a whole episode where we talk about these things, and we'll link to it, because there are ways that we have gone, especially in talking about world news. There is a way to get your world news that still keeps you up to date, but doesn't submerge you in the emotion of it for hours and hours and, throughout the day. So I think it's great that you made that mindset shift. And then you mentioned community. At the time of this recording, as we wrap up recording today, I am going to a little writers conference, and it's with women who are in my immediate area who are writers. And there's only going to be about 20 of us. And these are women that I have met with for the last several years. And I am so looking forward to this opportunity to spend face-to-face time with other women writers. And there's nothing better than that. And so you're right, you have to make the effort to seek out those communities, but it's so worth it. And I think those are all such important shifts to make. So thank you for sharing those.
Yeah. Well, I was just also thinking, you do need to make the effort, but I would say that those relationships that you make when you're actually taking that effort and being intentional are so worth it. They are so much deeper than they ever could have been on social media. And granted, I did meet some online besties, but we don't talk on social. We talk on Voxer, or we get together on a retreat, right? Different things like that. So we've gone so much deeper. And I think that's a really important piece. And also just thinking about what you were saying, the last mindset shift really was the question of, what am I really missing? Am I missing anything? And I can look back and go, I'm not missing anything.
We are going to interrupt our conversation with Gabe right there. Be sure to come back next week when Gabe tells us how her business has grown since leaving social media and what she's doing to make it happen. We talk about the response she gets from other entrepreneurs in the online space when she tells them she's not using social media, and she offers encouragement and practical steps you can take if you too want to take the leap off social media but are afraid to do so. You won't want to miss it.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time, and I hope you did too. Before we go though, if you resonate with this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or sharing it with a friend, as it helps grow the podcast. Also, if you're not a part of the Red Hot Accountability Club, what are you waiting for? It's a private online community away from the noise of social media that provides coaching, support, and encouragement as you go after your biggest goals in business or life in a stress-less, no-hustle kind of way. Inside the club, you will own your own results, hold yourself accountable, and lean on others for support. If you've been looking for a simple, off-social media way to grow, then this is it. Head on over to redhotmindset.com/RHA to learn more and join us today. Again, that's redhotmindset.com/RHA. And I can't wait to welcome you into the club. In all things I pray, you just run your race. I believe in you.